Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from Unique-Virus 5606. AITA for ghosting my boyfriend after he bought me a 1,000 USD dress. I, 21F, and my boyfriend, 22M, have been together for almost a year, and he has invited me as his +1 to a fancy end-of-year event for his work. He really values appearances and looking good in front of people, especially higher-ups at his job. So he took me to go dress shopping, as I am not as well off as he is, and I don't have any dresses that meet his standards. I do have some nice-looking dresses that I told him I'd be happy to wear, but he said they aren't expensive enough. I've often told him that I don't care if he spends a lot of money on me, although I'm extremely grateful when he does. He doesn't believe me and accuses me of leaving if he suddenly becomes broke. I have expressed how I feel loved through words and affection, but he still seems to think that he can forego those things by buying me expensive things and sending me on my way. He picked me up from my friend's house one morning and was immediately annoyed at me that I hadn't found any dress boutiques in his area. His area is very new, and they only just got a pizza shop, so I'm not surprised they don't have a dress shop yet. He had previously stated that he didn't want to drive far, so I didn't search very far. I told him I knew a dress store, but it was a few towns away, and he acted like I didn't know what I was talking about. He decided that we could find the store I was talking about, but once we got there, Google had taken us to the outlet version of the store instead. I told him that it wasn't the place I was talking about, but for some reason, he thought I purposefully took him to a cheap store just to embarrass him. He made me go in by myself while he went to look at another store. He also got mad at me for walking too slowly while I was trying to process the instructions he gave me. After he was done, he made me leave and we went to a mall in the area. He asked me why I would take him to a store like that, and I told him that the store I was talking about was big and fancy and had some really lovely dresses, but he would continually cut me off as if he couldn't be bothered to listen to my stupidity, despite him asking the question. We couldn't find a store in the mall that met his standards, so we went for a walk outside. I told him that the store I was talking about was literally on this street somewhere, so he, in annoyance, reluctantly let me lead the way, stating that he would be really mad at me if I was wrong. Of course, thanks to my luck, the store had been shut down, probably due to COVID-19. I visited the store for my high school ball dress shopping, so I hadn't been there in a while. He angrily searched for another store, telling me that if we don't find a dress, then we can't go because he doesn't want to be embarrassed. We find a boutique across the road. We go in. He watches his phone while I awkwardly look at dresses. I find one, try it on, and he seems absolutely done with the day, so he buys it for me and we leave. I find this disappointing because he has previously gone clothes shopping with my help for about 3 hours, sending me in and out of the changing rooms to get him a size up, size down, different color, different style, while he tries it on with the sleeves up, buttons down, sitting, standing, from the side, everything. And it felt like he couldn't be bothered to reciprocate that for me. After this day, I started to write a list of things I wanted to bring up with him, like how upset that day made me among other things. He has told me that he finds my friends attractive. He said I'm prettier than them, but I'd be a lot more beautiful if I lost weight. He has degraded me in a joking way, even after telling him that I don't like it. He has made fun of me for how shy I am, etc. Now, I was going to write a letter to him addressing these things because I want to be mature and communicate my feelings. He said before that he found letters like that really stupid and that I should just talk to him, but I know I wouldn't be able to do that without bawling, and that would annoy him further. I stopped writing the letter when I called him, and he told me that he was really worried and upset. I was worried for him and wanted to support him, so I asked him what was wrong, and he said that he was really worried about how I was going to act at the work event. He was worried that I would be really shy and that I would embarrass him so much. He said that if I didn't behave myself, everyone would talk about us after we left and that they would look down on him for dating someone like me. I was speechless. I'm naturally a very shy person, and along with a diagnosed anxiety disorder, socializing is very hard for me. But I've been trying really hard to break out of my shell this year. I started medication and therapy, and I managed to get myself into university, where I feel like I belong, and I can be myself. He has brought this up before. At another party with his colleagues where I thought I was doing really well socially, I was shaking hands and having polite conversations, and still he made fun of me as soon as we left the party. He told me that I was being so awkward, and I made everyone else feel awkward too. I told him that it really hurt me when that happened, and I didn't want this event to be a repeat of it. I didn't know how to respond, but ended up saying something like, "If I'm going to embarrass you that much, then I'd rather not go." He told me that it was not an option, that it was my responsibility to go because he bought me the dress and the shoes, and we needed to go and look good together. I said he has always known that I've been shy. I was sure that I bombed our first date with how shy I was, but he still asked me out again. He said that it was so convenient, and that I can't say that as if it exempts me from improving in life. He said that I always knew he was making money and that he couldn't just stop improving, so that means I'm not allowed to be shy. I asked him how he wanted me to respond, and he said that he's open to other options, but he doesn't see anything working other than me saying, "Yes, boyfriend. I won't disappoint you again, boyfriend." Of course I wasn't about to say that, so I asked if it was okay if I called him back. He hung up and I began to absolutely bawl. I haven't called him for 3 days, the longest we have gone without talking, and I'm scared to call back, although I know I have to at some point. I need to tell him that I'm not going to the work event, and I'm contemplating either having a big conversation with him or just breaking up with him. TLDR, my boyfriend is embarrassed of my shyness and wants me to behave as I wear a $1,000 dress at his work event, AITA. OP is not an AH for standing up for her mental health. Her boyfriend is an AH for hurting OP with his toxic behavior and misunderstanding her. OP's decision to break up with him is completely justified. So, I would rate OP 0 out of 5 and OP's boyfriend 2.5 on the AH scale. The next story is from late_plane_5767. AITA for putting a limit on my sister's BF. I, 38M, recently moved back to my mother, 65F, because I lost my job, and my wife, 36F, was unemployed, so we had no choice. No kids. My mother was very pleased because she loves us very much, and I hope this is temporary. When I got here to my childhood home 5 months ago, I found out my mother was cooking almost regularly for both my sister, 27F, and her boyfriend, 25M. I noticed she was really tired and asked why. She then broke out in tears a bit, didn't say why, but said she was really tired and glad I was there. Even though she is an iron woman, she still works because she is very active and also does her job, which she won't quit for anything. She loves being independent. I realized, like always, my sister was not collaborating with the household chores enough. She has always lived with my mother, but does only her own maintenance, clothes, her room, but nothing else. Sometimes she started to help with the kitchen before getting involved with this guy. I will elaborate on why this is an accomplishment to the confused readers. But anyway, this time was not only the usual cooking chores, but my mother was doing dishes and cooking for both, she and her boyfriend. So I honestly got kind of upset, but just said to my mother, "Do you want some help getting this off your back?" She agreed, so my soft intervention started, and I told her to use me as an excuse. She said now that we are all home, we will be taking care of ourselves, no more favors. Before continuing, my sister claims to have severe ADHD, which I probably have too, but really learned how to live with it. And to be fair, she is diagnosed. But I'm not so sure this diagnosis is complete since all the second part of it on how to deal with it was skipped for money reasons, but also because I don't think there is much interest in finding a solution to the issues it brings, and is more of an excuse-it-all card. Also, my sister's boyfriend is living in my house because he was going to move a bit far, so in the meantime, he was getting his stuff together. He was going to crash 2 months. At the time I arrived at my home, he was already 4 in, and kept moving the line for reasons. His parents are building a new home, and he will move there, but the construction has had some delays, so my mother gave him some slack, and he and my sister have been together only 2 years a few months ago. Fast forward to 5 months a few days ago, my sister's boyfriend has a very chaotic job, remote. So from 9 to 6, he doesn't know when he is going to have a break. My mother used to have a very clean and orderly kitchen, which is the place that suffers the most from us. 5 living together. Me and my wife never leave a crumb in that kitchen because we are trying to be as considerate as possible. But that guy is a mess. He is living like a bachelor in here. And by now he has been almost a year in the house, which would have been kind of okay if 2 things would happen. My mother was really tired of dealing with too full of a kitchen, dirtiness, smells, he cooks too intensely, and a freaking new air conditioner my sister and him installed. So she announced we were going to have a strict set of new rules. BTW, I have agreed with everything my mother says, because she is extremely rational, and I'm not a slob of a human, and I know how to keep a house, so these rules were not in place by being a bit extra nice with my sister and her boyfriend. But I have been bugging that we need to put them in place since I got here. But enough was enough, so she asked for this. Strict schedule. Everyone will have 3 times a day, 1.5 hours of use in the kitchen, and it would need to be clean, as it was found. No more air conditioning indiscriminately because it was too much. The bills were ramping up. No more strong odors because the fume extractor in the kitchen will be used 100% of the time. The dude then had the audacity of saying, "No, I can't. Sorry, my job. Remote schedule is too chaotic, so you will have to deal with me entering the kitchen when I have the chance, and adapt your schedules around that." So this little was doing this the whole time, was expecting we all 3 other adults wait from 9 to 5, that the kitchen will not be used until he did. Because if we were using it, he just jumps in there and uses it while other people are in there, and is a mess. He suggested we can use the kitchen together, but my mother was tired of that after 7 months of absolute chaos at lunchtime. So, no more extensions. Then my sister, that has a scheduled job too, remote, doesn't know how to cook. Only he can do it for me. I depend on him to eat. So she can't do, and she has cooked in the past, but now she has ability regressions. And now she magically can't cook. She has always been a pain with chores, and she loves her video games and to be in her room, but normally there is not a dude living with her, leaning on my 65-year-old mother, like is his mother. So, discussing the rules, I stepped in and told the dude to stop. That it was an ultimatum. He either does as my mother says, or he is out. I even, being a saint, suggest ideas, but no reheated food, ordering, nothing, because the has to eat fresh 2-hour prep time meals every day. He also has been protecting my sister, because apparently during her 27 years of life, she never communicated how she feels miserably in the house, and honest to God, that girl is spoiled. She has had a hard time getting a job from time to time, and we are very reasonable with her on that regard, but she's saying we are a bad family, because she feels better with her boyfriend than with us, is blood boiling. And besides all that, my sis said, we didn't say a thing, for now. So, he is now the savior, and all that jazz. End of the thing, he now is leaving, because we gave him no choice. So after a year, we are finally kicking him out. Because, reason, asking him an hour to cook without him disrupting the kitchen like the Kool-Aid man when he pleases. Now my sister is mad. We don't like him. No. He should be grateful my sister loves you, or you would have been out on day 1 I arrived. She is not mad at me, which is important because I feel this dude is 2 steps away from being an abusive partner, and I need her to trust me, but she is just like, so tired of this family. I felt like a bit of stranger eyes on this will help me regain my sanity or surprise me with AITA and make me reflect on how this strict schedule and turning the expensive AC 24/7 and free of use because they don't pay enough to cover that bill is too much. OP is not an AH for setting boundaries for her sister's boyfriend. He is an AH for being inconsiderate and ungrateful to his girlfriend's family. Not only he, OP's sister, is also an AH for prioritizing her toxic boyfriend over her family. So, I would rate OP's sister 1.5, OP's sister boyfriend 2.5, and OP 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now jump on to the next story from Reddit lover, but lurker, AITA, for how I reacted to Mill not respecting my and my son's school's instructions. I, 29F, am married to my husband, 30M, for a little over 4 years, together for 5. We have 2 young sons together, 3M and 1M. My mother-in-law, 58F, has shown entitled behavior since I've known her. She is an only child to adoptive parents and has always been pampered or gotten her way. Both my husband and his sister, 31F, have admitted that she has had manipulative tendencies their whole childhood. Whenever they have expressed feeling hurt, MIL turns it around to how their disagreement makes her feel bad and how it negatively influences her, up to the point that they don't mention or talk about what they feel she did wrong as they feel it's useless. Just a few examples of Mill's entitlement, in my experience. At our wedding day, she rearranged the placement cards in order for her to sit next to my husband. It was explicitly not done that way, as she then expected him to talk to her the whole night and be next to him in all the photos instead of being involved in the wedding program and enjoying our wedding night together. In the wedding photos, with family members, she was clinging onto my husband's arm, in each photo. When our first son was born, we informed our families that we would like to be the first to make a social media post to announce his birth and share a photo. She still made a post about not only being in the waiting room while our son was being born, but also that she was so excited to be a granny as soon as he was born. Every social media post that we have made, she has commented on wailing the line of Granny's doll. This granny misses her blue-eyed boy. This granny's sweetheart. Granny also wants to be there. Or, this granny's most pretty one. Loosely translated. At the last birthday party we held, our second son's first birthday party, she felt we had not given her enough attention. She lives about 40 minutes away from our town and have driven through. So, I understand that she wanted some attention. However, I was busy running around the whole morning before the party, as well as during and hosting the guests. I always make a big deal of the children parties, being themed with themed foods, decor, and party entertainment. I do everything myself, from catering to decor, and bake the themed cake myself. I usually start party planning 2 to 3 months beforehand, and it takes a lot of time and energy. During the party, she sat on the deck with my dad, Grandma, Sil, her daughter, and some other guests. They seemed to be chatting enjoyably, as I made a point of going around to each group of guests to chat for a few minutes during the party. However, I did not have a personal, one-on-one chat with her. Just to out things into perspective, I was so busy, I do not even have one photo with my son at his party. She was so offended about the lack of attention at the party. She left early and did not stay the afternoon with us as previously arranged, that she did not attend our youngest son's dedication the next day. In our religion, we dedicate our children to our faith, that we will bring them up in the way of our religion to the best of our ability, and have the congregation and our families stand with us as witnesses and our support system. It holds the same weight as baptism in some religions. Her excuse for not attending is that she had to make soap. That was in July. We made plans to visit her next, as she had come to the birthday party last. However, there was never a right weekend, as she was visiting her boyfriend one weekend. The next she was working. The next she was at a wedding. And she was too tired for visitors. We went to visit Sil one weekend as they live in the same town, and we popped around for a surprise visit, which she seemed to enjoy. The boys' school concert was the next time she would see them, in September. However, she decided not to attend, and let me know the day prior. Her excuse was that the boys would not even know she was not there. Now, onto the actual incident that was the last straw on the camel's back. The boys' school holds a Grandparents' Day for the youngest 2 classes in October. My eldest son has had this event the previous 2 years, and this would be my youngest son's first Grandparents' Day. I invited both sets of grandparents, MIL and my parents, by forwarding the school's advertisement, which stated which classes would be involved, and the following message. The boys' school is having a Grandparents' Day on said date. It would be lovely if you could attend and spend some quality time doing crafts, and there will be snacks, as each parent had to provide a plate of eats. Now, I did not specifically state that my eldest's class was not involved in the Grandparents' Day. However, his class was not on the invite. I also had to send a photo of our youngest, with each set of grandparents to the teacher before the day, as the photo would be used in the craft. She did not have a photo with him alone, due to him not sitting still and being able to smile when I want him to, as she states. So we specifically had to take a photo of her with our youngest the last time we saw her early in September. The morning of the day, I dropped my sons off at school as usual. At drop-off, my eldest son's teacher specifically asked that the grandparents not come through to his class, as it would not only disturb the class, but also confuse and sadden the children as to why they could not also spend time with their grandparents. There are many siblings in the school. I had up until that moment not thought that the grandparents would think it was a possibility to disrupt the class. As soon as I had left the school, 1 hour before the event, I sent mother-in-law a message asking her not to go to our eldest's class with the reasons given by the teacher. I invited her to our house after school to spend time with both boys instead, as she would be traveling to our town especially. I did not receive a response, which wasn't atypical of her. My parents live in the same town as us and see the boys often, so I knew they would not bother his class, and so did not send them a message. The next series of evens I only heard secondhand from my youngest son's teacher, other teachers, and my parents. During the event, my youngest son was slightly indifferent to mother-in-law and would not sit with her for a photograph. It seems that she asked my parents where my eldest son is. They informed her that he was in class and that she should wait for break time to see him on the playground. She then asked my youngest son's teacher where my eldest son would be, and the EAT strictly told her that she was here for Grandparents' Day and should spend quality time with the youngest son. MIL didn't respond, but slipped out as soon as the teacher's back was turned. Mother-in-law went from class to class until she bumped into a teacher busy teaching her class, grade R/6 WARS. MIL proceeded to ask the teacher to take her to our eldest son's class. The teacher, stupidly, complied and escorted MIL to eldest son's class, where she proceeded in taking him out of the class, taking photos with him, and taking him to the Grandparents' Day event. I could not believe it when I heard it. Not only did my youngest son not get to experience his own Grandparents' Day, as he has to share everything with his elder brother on all other days, but also had to share this day. My eldest son was also ripped out of his routine and confused, as he was only allowed to stay with the grandparents for about 10 minutes, until my youngest son's teacher asked MIL to return my eldest son to his class. I feel she deliberately went against my wishes and the instructions of all those around her, just because she felt she wasn't, again, getting the attention she deserved. This happened on a Friday. After a weekend of mulling the information over, my husband sent his mother a long message explaining what she did, how I got in trouble with the school, as they asked me not to let grandparents into my eldest son's class and that happened, and how she disrupted my eldest's class. No response? Not an admission or acknowledgement of what happened? Not an apology? Nothing. My husband wasn't surprised, as he warned me that she would either turn it against us or ignore us. Now, I am not proud of how I handled it, but I was fed up. So, I decided to go low to no contact. As she loved posting photos of the grandchildren to gain likes and comments, I decided to put her on an information diet. No more photos or messages. However, I knew my husband would not go along with my decision, as he feels it's pointless and avoids conflict if he can. I knew if I posted photos of outings on social media, that she would see it via my husband's social media. So, not only did I block her from my SM, but I took my husband's phone he was in the shower and blocker her from his as well. As I mentioned, I am not technologically inclined. I was unaware that blocking leads to unfriending. When my husband found out, he was livid. However, we still have not heard anything from MIL. It seems as though she is waiting for us to apologize to her. I am sorry for rambling. I am just so exhausted and don't know how to make her realize that what she did was wrong and has consequences. I don't want Miel to let my sons feel they need to earn her love, or that if they don't smile and perform that Miel won't give them love, affection, or attention. Anyway, did I overreact? Am I the asshole in how I handled everything? Or am I justified? Please feel free to not only judge, but also give advice on how to handle the situation. Thank you all in advance. OP is not an AH for going no contact with her entitled mother-in-law. Rather, OP's mother-in-law is an AH for always interfering in OP's family matters. OP's reaction is 100% justified. So I would rate OP's mother-in-law 2 out of 5 and OP a 0. Let's now jump on to the next story from Tiny Queenie. Am I the AH for wishing someone in my family would pass away? I, 21, F, and my grandma, 70, F, is taking care of my great-grandma, 101, F, let's call her Margarita. And things are not okay at all. For context, my grandma comes from a very traditional Mexican family. They grew up in a pueblo, and as years went on, they began to live in different places. Now, ever since I can remember, the family has always done the same thing over and over. My great-grandma would spend half of the year with my aunt, 80 F, in a small pueblo, and the other half of the year with my grandma. I would like to add that Margarita has 5 kids, 3 women and 2 men. But due to the way they grew up in, Only my grandma and one of my aunties take care of her. This is important as we go further. The issue here is that as the years have gone by, my grandma gets more and more frustrated with Margarita. Everything is a small trigger to make her explode in anger. If Margarita eats, my grandma gets mad. If Margarita doesn't eat, my grandma gets mad. If Margarita is sleeping, my grandma gets mad. And if she doesn't, my grandma also gets mad, to the point where I can apply this theory with everything. And I mean everything. I have 2 aunties, but they both live in different states, so the only ones that visit my grandma regularly are me and my mom. It would always be the same routine. I would go to school, mom would go to work, and then we would go to my grandma's house all day until almost 10 p.m., then go back home. I didn't mind that routine at first, but in the last maybe 3 years, things have been going downhill. The situation in the house has become unbearable for me. We can't have a normal conversation without my grandma yelling at Margarita at the top of her lungs for every single thing she does. And it's not because Margarita can't hear properly. No. It's because she wants to treat her like she can't understand. She would slap her hand, she would yell at her, take away her food and even her drinks just to prove a non-existent point. That point being, Margarita is just lazy. She doesn't want to do anything, or I have to do everything because she can't do it, or simply, she doesn't know what she wants. I'm doing the best for her. Mind you, Margarita is the healthiest person in my family. She walks on her own. She has a cane. She eats on her own. She changes her clothes. She washes her teeth. She can see. She can hear if you speak close to her ear, etc. So, she doesn't need someone to be stuck to her 24/7. Another thing to add here is that due to her age, Margarita is cold all day long. She's been wearing winter clothes since July because she feels cold. My city is a very cold place in the winter, so she's having more issues now with the weather. This is also important for later. And she also forgets things very easily when it comes to short term, but she remembers a lot of things from when she was younger. She can recite things almost perfectly that she learned in elementary school. But my grandma hates it. She always gets mad when Margarita forgets simple things like, did she drink water? What day is today? Did she already eat? Did she go to the bathroom? Did she already take her nap? And stuff like that. Or when Margarita says that she wants to drink some cold water or beer, but at the same time she also wants warm coffee or hot chocolate. And honestly, I get it. I wouldn't want to drink water that's not cold. My family and I have all tried to tell her to seek help from a nurse, but she refuses completely. Her excuse is that, I'm going to have to run around the nurse 24/7 inches, which is really not the case. We've offered to pay for a nurse ourselves. Our family is really big, so we offered to all put money. But she still doesn't want help. We've offered her psychological help, but she refuses. Now, I understand that she is from a different generation, a more traditional one, but she also knows that she's sick. She's aware that her mental health is declining rapidly, but she avoids talking about it every time. We've offered to pay for activities so she can go out and spend time for herself, doing what she likes, but she refuses. And this also applies to my aunt, who takes care of Margarita the other half of the year. They are both closed up to the idea of getting help. No one is able to get it through their heads that both of them are burnt out. They are abusing an elderly person every single day of their lives, but they simply don't see it that way. This is also very frustrating because, like I mentioned before, Margarita has 5 kids. The problem is that my uncles don't want to take care of Margarita because it's the daughters who have to do it. And only one of my uncles sends money to help my grandma pay for Margarita's expenses. But listen, my grandma has enough money, so that is not a struggle she faces. What she needs is help, like actual help. And this whole ordeal just gets worse when you put my grandmother and my aunt together. The abuse doubles. And even if we try to help, they get mad. They vent in the worst way possible, blaming Margarita for everything. Even if she has an accident, they blame her for not being fast enough or for drinking too much water. If she's cold, they would blame her because how can she be cold if she has a lot of clothes on? Or when she doesn't want to eat a lot, they yell because how can she not eat? She's just wasting good food. Well, maybe it's because she's freaking 101. But nope. To them, she's just being irrational or lazy. My mom and I always try to make things easy. We help as much as we can in the house. We run errands or we take care of Margarita so my grandma can go out with her friends. We really take it easy with Margarita, and we try to be as patient as we can because we know that she is slowly getting older. We buy her the snacks she wants or her random cravings, even if she doesn't eat them. We are basically mediators in all of this. We stay there almost all day, 5 days a week. I've lost sleep because instead of being able to finish my school projects, I'm helping with taking care of Margarita. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind helping around because I see it as something I do out of love, but it does take time away from my schoolwork or even my extra activities, and this also applies to my mom. Now, to the real deal, this whole situation has taken a toll on our family and the way we interact. My mom and I know for a fact that we can't live with my grandma because we have our own lives, but the tension has been brutal, and that has even affected my health. I constantly have headaches. I have insomnia. Due to the stress of knowing that I'll have to go to my grandma's house the next day, I get anxiety when I don't go because I'm scared of what can happen to them or what my grandma could do to Margarita. I get constant stomach aches, so I end up not eating at all, etc. And I know it might sound horrible, but I've thought so many times that maybe, just maybe, if Margarita simply passed away, everything would be fine. It sounds bad, I know, and it's not something I like to think, but no one cares about her. And I don't mean it in a derogatory way, but no one stops to ask her how she's feeling, what's on her mind, how is she that day. Nothing. She wakes up and she gets yelled at, she gets belittled, she gets abused. Me and my mom have talked to her a few times, and it's a bit hard to get an answer from her, but we know that she's afraid of being alone. She's scared that she will be alone if she ever passes away. But my grandma and her sibling don't care. It's hard because there's been times when I've heard Margarita wake up asking if someone's there because they leave her alone. They leave a 101-year-old woman alone without any help. It hurts me to see the way they treat her. And it's not because they can't. It's because they don't want to. Because they as siblings don't want to talk about their own mother. They just toss her from one side to the other, waiting to see who gets the hot potato. But I would also like to add that I'm no saint. Due to my own stress, I've also said some harsh things to my grandma for the way she treats Margarita. And I know I'm wrong, but I also admit that I'm scared. I'm scared that something will happen to my grandma and that we won't be there to do anything for her. This gives me major anxiety due to what I experienced in a past major, criminology. So I've told my grandma multiple times that it's dangerous for her to live like this, but she doesn't do anything about it. At this point, I just hope that one day Margarita doesn't wake up. I just hope that she passes away peacefully in her sleep, and that she only remembers the positive things we said about her when me and my mom were around, and that she knows that there were people who really did care for her. We recently made a plan in case Margarita does pass away in my city, so we can transport her to her hometown. My grandma doesn't seem to care. She's very nonchalant about it. But my aunt is angry. She hates that we even dare to talk about her mother passing away. So this makes things harder. I'm aware that maybe if Margarita passes away, things will get worse. Because, well, Mexican family. But honestly, I wouldn't feel bad for my grandmother or her siblings. I know my grandma and aunt sacrificed their time for Margarita, but they never accepted the help, and they never tried to speak with their siblings to find a solution. It's sad to say, but I know that when the day comes, I won't feel sympathy for any of them. Who I'm most worried about is my mom. She is the closest person to Margarita because she grew up with her. Long story short, due to some issues, my grandma left my mom with Margarita when she was younger for a few years. So my mom sees Margarita as her own mother. She has told me before that if Margarita passes away that she is going to be devastated, and I completely understand that. She said that she's aware of the fact that it can happen any day. But I know she's also scared that it happens. I know it might seem like I don't care about Margarita, but it's the other way around. I deeply care for her. I love to hear her stories, her jokes, her songs. Damn, I even find it hilarious when she randomly argues with me for no reason. I know I'll miss her if she dies, but I also know that I don't want to see her go through this abuse any longer. It's not fair that your own family puts you through so much because they can't take care of their own issues. So, AITA for wanting someone in my family to pass away. OP is not an AH, rather her grandmother is an AH for treating her great-grandmother poorly. OP's sympathy for her great-grandmother is justified, but her wish that she passed away and got relief from this miserable life is not good. So, I would rate OP's grandmother 3.5 out of 5, and OP gets nothing. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can. And don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.